built this house last summer on Salt Spring Island. So I knew I wanted something modern, and I wanted something luminous, spacious, and aesthetically pleasing. As much as I could, I tried to work with nice materials, and I designed it as really what I would have wanted to live in. I'm Mathieu. I'm 29 years old. I'm a carpenter. I've been doing this for roughly 5 years. And I was working for a tiny house contractor for 3 years at the beginning of my apprenticeship, Colin Crystal, which was running Salt Spring Tiny House. We built over, I want to say 14 houses together with the crew. It was a great learning experience, and I thought I could do one on my own. So I left my work and I made sure I had enough money to do it, and I just dove. The whole build was about 5 months, 5 very intensive months, which was a little too ambitious, I have to say, to do the whole thing. I hired my friend Nick to do the cabinets and design them with me. But the whole thing, outside of a couple little projects where I had a friend coming and give a hand, it's all me, So it was a lot of alone time here, from dawn to dusk, just working. It was stressful, it was long, it was exhausting, but it's probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It's a 26 foot by 8.5 by 13.5, very standard dimensions as for road allowances, on a double axle trailer. As you can see, we have channel cedar on standing seam Prolock metal siding. I was kind of inspired by a Scandinavian design. There's a lot of black to the house, so I made the side walls in channel cedar, and I was happy about that contrast, where when the siding is black, the trim is wood, and when the siding is wood, the trim is black. And we have a couple outlets outside of the house, a little light next to the window. It was thought as for being installed with a deck, hopefully on all the front face, maybe even with an overhang. You can see here, outdoor hot water heater system, 2 ports of propane, basically powering the shower that we'll see inside, or basically the whole hot water system and the stove. So that's what's outside. It was great to put it there so we could avoid clogging the inside. These units come handy and they're very resistant, so I chose to go with this design. So the house inside is a pretty standard design as far as room division, but there's a couple things that I really didn't want to compromise on, and one was light. So you can see I tried to do as much natural light as I can. The interior is pine cladding that's painted white, and then the rest is cedar, but also with a touch of cherry. Also, as far as tiny house, it's hard to have the balance between enough storage and spaciousness. So that also advised some of my design choices. And you see the living room is quite spacious and kind of divided in two all around this little table. You can see it's there. It can be a place of gathering, maybe a place, a TV station on the couch, but it also folds down so that the space is even more open to maybe do yoga or, anything you would want to do that would necessitate your freedom of movement just a little bit more. Then the kitchen has an L counter because I wanted it to separate the house in two, so that you could have as well that second half of the living room that could be some sort of a bar area, be able to hang out here, a stool, and maybe even a workstation. So I made it here. It was important to me that, you could sit right next to the window, just enjoying the view. Yeah, you can see this is the heating element. So this is a forced air heater system. It heats very well the whole thing, and it's pretty discreet. So if we move to the kitchen, it's definitely my favorite part of the house, just because it includes that shaker kitchen that my friend Nick and I designed, but that he built in his shop. Great guy, great cabinet maker in Duncan. Like, the whole thing is custom, and it really turned out great, so I'm really happy about it. You could see the counter, it's all cherry, and he cut the cabinet right here, you know. So you have the basically the L door here, that everything is in easy reach or easier reach, and then half of the space is reserved for storage for the living room, you know. So this cabinet is cut in half, and it's basically 2 pairs of cabinets instead of one quite, you know, cumbersome cabinet to operate. It's easier this way. And you can see as well, people sometimes don't notice it, but the whole kitchen is continuous grain. So you see, like, all these boards, they follow each other everywhere. And so that's just a testament to the attention to detail that this guy has. Same for the pantry here. Continuous grain. Kind of well and nicely hidden next to the fridge space. And so, you know, just below the loft, have your more appliance part of the kitchen. I just bought this nice little stove that I thought was fitting, you know, and also kind of seamless inside the house. Loft height 74 inches, 6'2". So, you know, that's another thing you have to do when you design a tiny house. You have to kind of decide exactly where you want it to be to maximize loft space for road allowances. So yeah, I feel like, you know, for most people it's going to be comfortable. Double sink, I just went with I wanted it to be spacious, a bit like the house, you know, spacious but functional. That's the thing, you know, a tiny house can sometimes feel really cramped, you know. So it was all about trying to have features that you would have in a real house, and to have a feeling that you have the spaciousness of a real house, but inside a small space, you know. So again, like, I chose a big sink, which is nicely centered in front of my window and kind of outside the loft area. Very, very typical design, you know, kitchen and then bathroom below the loft. This is a cedar door. We made, a friend and I, in his shop. It's just a barn door. Yeah, gets us in the bathroom. Again, like, it's 6 foot, you know, or yeah, 6 feet by 8.5 again, minus of course the wall thicknesses. So yeah, I think that was a good compromise as far as space, you know. You have a bathtub. This is another design choice I had to make. Like, the thing I would have really loved in here is a tile shower. That would have been number 1, but it would have added a lot of weight and it would have brought up the cost a lot. So I just went with the bath, and with a D-shaped rod like that, you know, you can just have a curtain around. Funny story about that vanity. At first it was designed, it's 12 by 16. At first it was designed as 24 by 24. But then when I installed it, I sat here and I had the cabinet right there, you know. So again, like, that's a beginner's mistake. It's my first house. So it's pretty funny. Like, it had 2 doors and we put it on his table saw upright. We cut it. We just removed the door and removed a little bit of the depth so that it could fit, you know. Now it makes it off-centered in the space, but, you know, sometimes there's some stuff like that you have to let go. Building is such an intensive process, and it really, yeah, like, decisions after decisions after decisions, and sometimes you just need to let it go. So, bathtub, sink, and then flush toilet. This is another design choice I made. It would be pretty easy to install a composting toilet. It just needs a hole, but it was important to me that it's plumbed for to be able to flush, you know, just again for convenience. Here you have your washer dryer combo. Again, other choice that I made because I wanted the space here to remain free. Now, so I just made a little bar here, and now you have a clothes hanging area. Lastly, you have that medicine cabinet here. That was a cool little project that I did in school. And so it worked out pretty good. Talking about the loft now, all cedar beams, fir decking. This ladder is all cedar too, you know, makes it very sturdy but extremely light. Like, we made it again with my friend in his shop, a couple nice weekends doing it. You know, like as a carpenter, when you can work with nice material like that, it's so satisfying. So I'm pretty happy about how this one turned out. And it brings us to the loft. So the loft is just, you know, basically the same width as the house. It's 9.5 foot long, so it fits any kind of bed, you know. Probably well suited for some sort of size like that, a double, but you can still have space on both sides regardless of what you're going to use it. And I didn't take so much design freedoms in the loft just because I wanted it to be versatile, you know. So you could see that the bed could change orientation as well. The only thing I really did was I made a little complex of shelves that are in the background, but it was important for me to leave some space open to, you know, just so it could be customized in a way. So you could imagine that you could put maybe, you know, baskets here or some sort of a dresser to add storage. I purposefully did not put a skylight up there because of two reasons. Because, you know, it's always easier to build a roof without a skylight. And also, a friend made me remark at some point that when you're in the bedroom, I don't know if you want to have sun right in your face, you know. So that could be a preference that people have or don't have, but it's just a design choice I made. So instead, I made two long windows on each side of the bed. They open, you know, so your cross draft is effective. So the walls, I was really liking the white on wood contrast design, so I decided to go for cedar on the ceiling and have a feature wall and have the rest of it white, but the trim being cedar. And that wouldn't have been possible without another friend of mine that basically had an opportunity at a place where he was working as an arborist to have a standing dead cedar, you know. So I did a bit of work at this place and we traded for this trim. So all of the trim everywhere in the house, everywhere around the windows, the baseboards, is all that one tree. You can see how beautiful this material is. It's all clear cedar and it's local. That wouldn't have been possible to buy that kind of quality material would we not have been able to source it on island. So I thought that was a pretty cool feature. So as far as the floor, it's a pretty nice complement to the countertop. As you see, it's basically the same wood, but it wasn't planned. It's engineered hardwood and it's salvaged, you know. So this was all from a very big and probably quite luxurious condo in Vancouver. And basically one day, as I was still wondering what I was going to use, my landlords just arrived and they had a truck full of it because they had that opportunity to salvage it. And they just said, yeah, like, would you want a little bit of it? We have over 1,000 square foot. Like, oh, wow, really? You know, I was quite excited about it because it was fitting perfectly. Sometimes things just go your way, and that was one time for sure. So the house is built like any other house on a foundation would be built. So it's basically a floor platform insulated on a trailer, and from then, you know, like it's a normal house. It's just a bit smaller and it has different dimensions, but all the walls are insulated, the roof is vented. It's a rainbow double axle trailer, 14,000 pounds capacity. The house is actually just under 13,000 pounds. For my best estimations. That was also a pretty cool thing that usually is not involved in most building projects, like the weight factor. So yeah, that I had to keep in mind the whole build and make design choice accordingly. The most challenging thing by far was the conflation of everything together. you know, from the money to the materials to the time, and also, you know, like having a deadline as well. You know, it all made it fit together, and it, you know, when you have constraint, most of the time it gives you the drive to actually meet the challenge. But I would lie saying that it wasn't challenging. You know, it was very challenging, but I would not trade that experience for anything else, really. The tiny house is not for me. I built it with the intention of selling it. And so, yeah, I did it, and I hope that it's going to become somebody's home soon. It'd be pretty rewarding to know that somebody is using, I guess, my creation, you know, in their everyday life, and that it's going to be somebody's home.
Subscribe to Exploring Alternatives, and please share this video if you liked it. You can also find out more about Mathieu's tiny house by following him on Instagram. Thanks for watching.